Okay, this is a video about the new dynamic lists that are out in Summer 22. This is a Summer 22 pre-release org, even though it says 17. It is up to date with Summer 22. This is a day before the Summer 22 release is into sandboxes, but I can't video client sandboxes, so that's why I'm doing it in this pre-release org. The idea of filtered related lists has been around forever and ever and ever, and we've been promised it forever. We, at some point in time, got what they said was filtered related lists, but was not at all. So this is a standard related list, enhanced related list of tests on an account. So we've got a number of different types of tests. We've got a number of different, this is all just random data. But we've got 4 different types of tests. We've got some dates over a number of years, some comments and some readings on some, and some test results. So if I go to view all, this is the filter related list that we've had previously, where we can filter, and I had already previously filtered it, and it stays as I'd filtered, right? So it says sorted by type, filtered by type, test date, test result. Test result types, test. Okay, so you can see here it says there's 20 items that are filtered. Now, if I go more and say, well, I've only got the date filtered and the fail filtered, it still only shows me that there's 50 plus items. So it just still doesn't show me a count, and I still, I can go to 53. Okay, so I can see exactly how many there are. But if I scroll, if I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, I still have to scroll till I get to the bottom of the list, which is ridiculous. But that is also the standard in a filtered list view, which is not a filtered related list view. So let's just do all, and I've got no columns here, so let's just put some columns here. Test date, type at least. Okay. And we'll filter it by all test done, and we'll say type equals. Now note this pop up here, and that we can select multiple. Okay, so I'm just filtering out everything except sensor, and it tells me 50 plus, sorted by test name, filtered by all tests type. Filtered by all tests type. That's interesting. Oh, all tests for my tests, right? Okay. And again, if I scroll, I keep having to scroll, and I get 426. But I can get to a total item if I keep scrolling. I could also do a chart, and say count, and say donut chart, count, type. Okay, and that will get me 426 no matter what I filter on. So let's just take out one of the options there, and come on, and hit done. Save that. And if we go to our count, my count 293 will be directly visible on my list view. Okay, so that's regular list views. We've been using them forever, and then we've also got the regular related list views with the user configurable filter, and that's not what we want. We want filtered, what they've now called previously on the Idea Exchange, admin filterable related lists, but now in this release it's called dynamic lists. So there is a few really cool features about dynamic lists, and one of them is that we can choose which fields are displayed on our lists. So within like dynamic forms, within our Lightning app builder, we can choose which fields are for custom objects that are on the page. And now for Lightning, again, I keep saying filtered related lists. For dynamic lists, we can now choose also what columns are on the page. Just while I'm on here, does this page analysis thing just annoy the shit out of you every single time it comes up? Yep, me too. So there is a way to hide that analyze. Help. Oh, there it is. Help. View tips. No. Once you know how to do it. Mute tips. Help. Mute tips. They will never come up again. All right. So that's a nice little tip. Thanks. Nana Greg told me that tip, so thank you, Nana. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this filtered, this dynamic list on my homepage. Because actually I'd like to have my dynamic list above my details page. I want my filtered related list above my details page, because the details page is generally something that you know, that most of the time you know all about it. It's up here your key details are up here. And most of the time for your key related item, you want to see that here as the first thing. And I want to see like the last 4 weeks of tests or something along those lines. It's interesting it didn't show anything there. And as a first release thing, it's not showing live data, it's only showing the sample text. I can forgive that for a first release. Of course, I'd like it to show live data. Now that's showing assets as standard, but we want to do tests, right? So we do tests, and then it only shows one name field, and it takes a while. It's all very, very slow. Now, I know that in Australia we have very slow Lightning pages generally, but this is all very slow, even for Australian standards. We've got related list label, related list type, list or tile, number of records to display. We could do 10 or up to 30. I'm just going to show 10 at the moment because it doesn't take up too much space on the screen. We've got this ability to show the list view action bar or not. And down here are our actions. That again, that is come from the standard actions on the tests object, I think. So let's just add a few other fields here. So we'll do reading, and we'll do type, and we'll do test date. Okay. And what we'll do, we can sort it by test date descending. We can't do any more than one sort order, which we can't do on standard list views anyway. Of course, we would love that. And then here we can add the filter. So if I say filter by type, I'm going to test name here. Where's my type? Where's my type? Oh, no, it is on the list view. So where is it? I thought maybe it's not because it's not on the list view, but it is there. That's weird. I have filtered by type before. Reading, test name, year, month. Okay. All right. So test date greater than. Now here there's a little trick. See, it says here to filter by an actual date. You say year, month, day. If you want to filter, if you're wanting to filter by created date, for example, which is a date time, you filter by the full ISO format. Okay, we're just going to filter by test date greater than, and we can do greater than last year. Actually, I'll say greater. So just say greater than last year, so we get only a few on our page at the moment. So I'm going to save that and come back to my record. And you know how Salesforce Lightning sort of gaslightings you, and you sometimes can't see the right details? Chrome extension called Clear Cache. And what you do is once you put it on there, you set it to remove clear IndexedDB and everything. And if any time you think, I'm not quite sure that the Lightning page is showing me something right, you can hit that and be sure that it's querying from the database again. Okay, so here is our tests, right? So what I'm going to do is show the related tab first. So I've got this one above the tabs, and I've got my related tab here. So this is my standard related list, and this is my dynamic related list. So can you see some differences in that? So what I'll do is I'll just scroll out a bit. Okay, so let's play spot the difference. Of course, there's differences in column widths, differences in columns viewed, there's differences in sort order, all of that, you know, is standard differences. But let's have a look at some other differences. We don't have a change owner button on this one, but we do here. So it didn't actually bring out the standard buttons that were set for that list view. It only brought out the new buttons. That's interesting. And so it's got the 10 plus items sorted by type, updated now. So 10 plus items filtered by test date, updated. Now here we can see that there is way more than 10 items because we can hit the view all here. But what happens here? We've got no view all. So this to me is the absolute biggest failure of dynamic lists. And it is really quite dangerous that you could have, if I've got a filter on my, I'll just open that in a new tab, on my tests, on my regular list view, you know, I don't have everything visible on my regular view. I can click one big button there and see what that is filtered by. It says filtered by all tests type, right? But then I can see it's actually only got visual and hydrostatic in there. But here, I can see filtered by test date. I do not know what date range it is. I can probably see there that there's some there. But is that all of the tests in 2022? I don't know. I've got no hint, no clue to say that there are, apart from it says 10 plus, but I've got no way of getting to those on that list view. So unless you have the full list view immediately below your related lists, your dynamic list, there is no way for the users to get to that. This may look, again, this can look ugly when you've got the two list views before right next to each other because they're different column widths and they can look very quite different between the two of them. So it can look a bit ugly. You could change the title of the dynamic list to put the actual filter, you know, filtered for this year in the title. But then if you've got a couple of the related lists on here, that again could look really ugly. I just don't understand why. Why have they limited this so that basically they're hiding data? And the users have unless you really factor this in, the users have no way of knowing that you are hiding data. Well, they can see 10 plus, but they don't know how many more. And they've got no way of getting to it if you don't have your full related list on the list view at all. So that's why I think put it not on the standard related list tab if you're going to use it. Put it here, put only like one or maybe two, and put in the title filtered by this year, right? That would be my tip. The other tip is that you could have your dynamic list views here and then have a related links to a report that's got a filter on it that only filters by that account. And there's the 108 tests for Burlington Textiles. Okay, so you could do that. You could have a way to get to all of the records via a list view. And the other thing I've got is a hidden report chart. So what I could do is have a report chart that, you know, again, that I would put right below my filtered list, or really a way that where it could be viewed, you know, in conjunction with this filtered list. So this is a report chart with all of my types and all of my tests for this account over all time, and then I can go and view that report also. Now, just so in case you don't know, these two reports are completely different reports and are built completely different, and there is no way that you can have the same report do both as a report chart and as a list, a link on the page. I just don't get why they could not show a view all button there. Like, why limit this? It's in the release notes. It says you can show up to 30 fields, 30 rows. Like, but why limit this? This is not a performance issue, because I can have the full 30 rows and the view all button on a regular list view. So it's not a performance issue. They've got the code there. You know, they can just copy the code from that view all button and stick it there. I think in the release readiness, they're going to have to explain why this is a feature. This is not a feature. This is an erosion of trust in our data. We cannot put these dynamic related lists in front of our users that are not so savvy and don't know every single thing about the data in our system without having some other way to explain it. I can't even add a description field, right? I might want to have a rich text field below that showing what it's filtered by. I'll just pause while I do that to show you. So here I've changed the name and said latest 10 this year, and I've put in a rich text component. The above list view is only showing the latest 10 tests. Please see the test list view on the related tab for all tests related to this account. Could be worded better, but you know, something along those lines. And you know that your users are not going to read that. They're not going to read that. They're going to call you up and say, why can't I see the tests for January 2022? There's a whole hashtag why admins drink related to that. Okay, so let's have a look at some other features and not so good features here. It's interesting, the release notes tell us we can only have 2 on a page, but I have 3 assets as a standard object, and I have 3 asset filtered related lists here. So I don't know what the 2 relates to. Again, maybe in the release readiness we'll get to it. So let's have a look at our assets list. I don't have a lot of assets, and they're all for Bellington. Okay, so I've just got two assets. So I've got one filter which is competitor asset equals true. One filter is install date something, and one filter is asset name is something related to A. Okay, so interestingly, that one record meets all of those filter criteria, but that B record is not in any filter criteria. What happens if I was to say, okay, whichever list view I do, I'm going to add a C asset name. I'm just going to relate it to Burlington Textile, so it is related to this account. And asset C was created, but it doesn't appear anywhere. So that is very disconcerting for your users, that you can create a new record related to this account and it does not show up on any of my filtered related lists. Again, another reason why you must show your regular related lists right below your filtered lists, and you must name every single one of these with the exact filter that is on them, or else you are just gaslighting your users. Okay, now the interesting thing here is that if I go to my account record page and go to assets, I have got the assets related list on here, but it's not on the current page layout. So that's one of the good things, is that you can put related lists with dynamic related lists. You can add related lists onto the page, the Lightning page, that are not on the page layout. Remembering we're going away from the page layout and all of the things related to the page layout. This is good that, you know, you can just add any related list. But again, it's, you know, old adage of it's gaslighting you, just like dynamic forms are gaslighting you, and dynamic actions are, that you find yourself adding a new action to your page layout, and you come back to your main page layout, and you hit your clear cache 3 or 4 times. You think, where's my button? I put it on the page layout. Why isn't it on my page? And it's because you've upgraded to dynamic actions, or you've upgraded to dynamic forms, and there is nothing on the page layout to say, hey, there's dynamic actions, and there's dynamic pages, and there's dynamic related lists on this record, on this object. Please don't be, worried if it doesn't show up, when you hit refresh 5 times. So just like quality of life stuff, just give us this quality of life stuff to make our lives better. At the moment, I am not convinced that this dynamic list is going to be making our lives better. Okay, so that assets one is a real weird one. Okay, so what I would suggest you do is that you do not show a new button or any buttons on your filtered related lists. Okay, so when you add the new button that says show list view action bar, what I would suggest you do is that you do not have a new button on these filtered related lists at all, because you could create a record that is then not visible in any way, shape or form. All right, let's have a look now at some really weird and bad things. Now, I can, when you on a filtered list on a regular page layout, that you must have the name field first, and you must have the name field displayed. On these related lists, let's just have a look at the related list now. You can see I've got my filtered 10 filtered, and I've got my list view. Now, of course, we can't do anything we can't have actions, but I've got a quick action on this object, on the tests object. If I go to my tests object, I've got here, I could go here and run the quick action of update name. We can't do quick actions on these new dynamic lists, but we can't do those on current related lists anyway. So again, I'd love to see that as a thing at a later date. But let's see what we can do with this. We can move test name down in the view. We don't have to have name as our first field. That is interesting. Is it good? I don't know. It's interesting, but I just don't think it's good. So I suggest, even though you can do it, don't. Because what happens, that's interesting. The other day, okay. So when you move name, you still get the checkboxes, but when you remove name, you can actually remove the name too. Oh, that's interesting. The other day, I didn't get the checkboxes there. So again, that's something to test. I'm getting really a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of little glitches here in doing this testing. And the other day, my checkboxes were removed. That is interesting. Okay, so if you don't have your checkboxes there, of course, you can you have to go to edit record. And if you don't have your name there, you'd have to go to edit record. Again, that's not nice for your users. It's not the same way that your users are used to working. Your users are used to having the name field as the first field, and it also goes straight to the record. Okay, they can still do the edit and the delete there, but they, just make it as standard as possible. Some of the other things is, let's just add that name field back in again, and we'll put it back up to the top. You can't filter a field. Now, again, if you think about that, that would be difficult, because some fields may be required for different record types. I don't know why you would want to filter a field, but if everything else can be filtered, and if a field can be filtered on a dynamic form, why can't we filter it there? What would be great is if you could filter it by custom permission or a user permission type field, so that, like what you do at the moment is you have two different list views on a page, one for one type of user, one for another type of user with different fields. That would help stop you having to have two whole list views on a page with different fields filtered for different users. So that would be helpful if it was not value related, but is just permission related, would have a filter there. All right, so this is really weird because I just added a pick list to the standard object of asset, and just to see if I could find that pick list value in there, and I can't see that pick list value in there. So I can't now filter by pick list. I could filter by pick lists up until just now. So I don't know what is going on there. But the issue was, which I was going to try and tell you about, is that despite the ability to have a filter on a pick list value where you can choose the value on the regular list view, and despite having the ability to choose the value in a filter on a standard dynamic forms pick list, where you can just drop down the list value, in a filter on a pick list value on a dynamic list, you have to type in the value. Again, they've got the code there in two separate different places that is very, very, very similar. Why is that missing? And then why is this glitch where I can't even now get a pick list filter in any way, shape, or form? So that is just so very weird to me, both of those things. So let's just try again. This has not got no filter on it. Test result is not a field that I can filter on. That is really, really bizarre that is now missing, or it's a glitch that it's not coming up. Okay, so I don't know whether they've removed it or it's not coming up anymore. Because the very first time I tried these a couple of weeks ago, on the day that the pre-release all came out, it didn't have a filter. So I don't know whether they're changing things. But I need to be able to filter on pick list values. Yes, absolutely. So other than that, if you can't filter on a pick list value, you're going to need to create a formula field that's got a Boolean and filter on that Boolean field. Right? So that's always your workaround. What I'd love to be able to do is, once I've got all my fields here, if I wanted just a slightly different filter, be able to just clone this list view so I don't have to set it up again. That would be really cool. Okay. So let's now put this filtered list view on the small page layout. And it says here, again, I've just got the latest 10. I'm going to move this over here so we can see. Latest 10 this year, and it says 6. And it's still got our sample text and everything like that. And we can see here that we've got sample text reading type test date. So again, it's on the narrow column, you only ever see 4 columns. Okay, there's no way to see more than 4 columns on the narrow list view. So let's now refresh our page. It only shows us 3 records, 3 plus. So regardless of how many you put on there, 10, 30, 20, whatever, it will only show 3 records. It's even worse than having a list view on the wide column, and then you've only got the 4 fields. Okay, now that might be okay. Only the 4 fields might be okay, but then let's see what happens when you remove the test name field from there and hit save. I don't think anyone has ever thought of that you would ever build this without the name field. So please don't. Please don't test. I'm testing this out so that you don't have to. Don't ever do this. See, the result field is like this random field 4318 just sitting there, because these narrow list views are only ever made so that the name field will be first, right? And we've got this random result field which is not filled in every single field, and so therefore that result field takes up the whole column, right? And that is just bizarre. That is absolutely just bizarre. Let's just do it with the so that's the reading. Let's just do it with the test date first and see what that looks like. Yeah, just Now, once you've seen this now, you'll just know never, ever, ever to do this. So here, the date field is first, and there's not enough differential because it's not a hyperlink. There's not enough differentiation between the records now. So that just looks terrible, looks bizarre. So please just do not use these dynamic form lists in narrow list views. Again, I don't know how this ever got past QA. Sorry. It's not acceptable that this could be even possible to make this list view like this. So there's a couple of things that I want to test. Sometimes, like a couple of times, I've just got so many glitches. Sometimes I can make the dynamic list views just not appear at all. I can make it appear just as a sort of really collapsed list view. I've had about 4 or 5 different glitches in these, so they're just not ready for prime time. I need to test the visibility, what happens if one user doesn't have access to the different fields that are on the filter, or what happens with different users in the org. So things that I'd like to see in future, I want this on mobile. There's the only reason why you want filtered related lists is the main reason is for mobile. That would be great. This 2 on the page thing, like I can see I've got more than 2 on the page that is filtered, so I don't know why there is this in the release notes. It says you can have 2, so I've now got more than 2 filtered related lists. I've got 5 filtered related lists across 2 different related lists on this page now, so I don't know what the 2 is. Yeah, of course, with all the other things we want on a regular list views, like multiple sort, Rolodex. I'd love search and filter on here also. The search filter that we've got on a regular list views, that would be lovely, even though it doesn't work half the time. What I do is I create a thing called filter text, and I update all of the key names that I want, key fields that I want to be able to search on via a before save flow into a text field, and I put that filtered text on this list view as the last field on the list view, and then I can filter on whatever I damn well like and get around this stupid thing that you can't filter on regular fields. When I've got a lot of list views here, I'd love to have different icons for the different things. That would be nice. And I'd want a description field, and I want an actual count. If I can get an actual count by doing that chart thing on a regular list view, why can't I get an actual count on this list view? But the number one thing is I just need that view all button. There is no way that this can be deemed a valid feature without that view all button. I'm going to blow your mind here. And this is oh God, I just hope this is just something that I've got wrong, right? Okay, so I'm going to remove all of everything except my standard list view for tests, right? When I add a dynamic related list single to the page and I change it to tests, I only get one field, which is called test name. Now, you might think, well, it's because it's a custom object. But it's like, why can't it, my first thought is, why can't it just use my search layout? Or why can't I just use my new tab layout? So I went into went back into my tests object and tried to find my tab layout. Try to set my tab layout. And if you look closely here, there is different options here on this thing now. We've got the new flow triggers, which is fabulous. We've still got search layouts. Search layouts in Einstein Search are just fabulous. They're just really great. Love them. But we've got the list view button layout where we can choose the buttons on the standard list view, not the related list view, but on the standard list view. Where's my tab? Where can I modify the tab layout? So the tab layout, so previously the tab layout, if I went to recently viewed, I think it was if I went to all from a very stock standard brand new object, I could control what comes up on this list view via the tab layout. I don't know how long ago this recently viewed. Now that they've only got the one recently viewed list view, this is now controlled by the search layout. That's in the current list view. It's not a summer 22 thing. So if I change my search results and say my search layouts and say that I want year, month, and reading on that page also, and I go back to my recently view and I do a hard refresh, it's got my year, month, and my reading. So if I do there, let's do it in my search layout for me, because my default search is there, it's going to come up in year, month, and reading there also. Okay, so you think, why doesn't that control what comes up on my when I put my dynamic related list onto the page? Right, but if you go to Classic and you go to the Tests tab in Classic, remember currently in a current regular org right now, there is the search layouts for Classic link on the side of on here. There's a search layouts for Classic, and you can still modify the tab view. Now in Summer 22, you can now no longer modify the tab view. So the setup team has taken away the ability to modify the tab view. However, again, I'm going to blow your mind. Test date, test result. That's all we're going to put on here. Right? It's not going to change anything on my tabs, anything on my search, anything on anywhere else. But if I'm just going to refresh my record page, reload my record page just in case. And I'm going to put my dynamic related list single on there now. I'm going to change to tests. And there's my test date and test result there. So at exactly the same time as the dynamic forms, whoever's team is that builds this dynamic related list teams is building this using that tabs layout as the default layout for their dynamic lists, the setup team is removing that functionality from Lightning. Or that's what it looks like. So it's like one hand is just not talking to the other. So I'm very glad that we can do that. That we can add a default set of fields in for my related list views. But B is really, really, really annoyed that I have to go to Classic to do it. So the tips are, always have your regular full list views with the view all button. So probably don't add your dynamic related lists on this exactly on the related tab. Maybe like do it on a separate tab like this, not like assets tab, and then you've got the different list views and report charts and everything like that on that tab, right? But just have your regular related lists, or have your related list quick links at the top so they can get to the view all. Really, really, really show or tell your users that this is not going to be able to show you all of the data, even all of the filtered data. Put a quick rich text field, put a title, change the title to whatever it is, to really help the users understand that this is going to gaslighting them and hide data from them. Or put it on the details page so they can get to the report link. Now there was a pilot in Summer 21 which is called the Dynamics Actions Bar, where you could have put a button of the report tests up there. You could put a button below or related, put a button, an action, dynamic actions bar anywhere on the page layout. That was in pilot in Summer 21 and has never been seen again. Right, so that would be cool, be able to have that, but we can't, so we can only go back to report links. But if you're already on a custom object and are using dynamic forms, you don't have that ability to have those visible. now. So they just don't want you to have these fabulous report links. I love them. And only ever add it to the wide column. Always put the name field first so that you're not, again, messing up your users and helping them, getting them confused. Just even though you can move it, do not put a new button on the dynamic related list, because that would just be really confuse the users just as much as the lack of a filtering on the pick list is confusing me right now. That would really confuse the users when they can add a record and it immediately disappears from the list view. That's just bad. So please really look after your users when using this. It is not ready for prime time. We've just got to have that, way more information visible on the screen so the users are not so confused and upset by you messing up their world.